Welcome everybody to the October edition of the Community Office Hours. I'm joined with my co-host Monica, as always, and we have a cool topic for you today, and that is Thunderbird for Android. It's a year old this month. So we have Wolf, who's the lead developer on that project, and we have Jon, who is relatively new to Thunderbird, but making great splashes. He's the mobile team manager. So as you might know, we are also working on an iOS product. So he's overseeing both the Android and the iOS products. So look for some maybe teasers towards the end on what that looks like. But let's focus on Android to start. Wolf, you've been on these before. It's nice to see you again.
Yeah, hello again.
So it's a year. It's been a year. Looking back over the year, can you just give us some broad strokes of what some of the highlights have been, what worked well and what didn't of Thunderbird for Android?
Yeah, I think last year we released the first Thunderbird version of what we called formerly K9, and it was a great success because we're adapting a lot of users for Android, and over the year we had quite some changes to our team, to how everything worked. So I think I will highlight some of these changes. I think we did a lot of work in the background, so cleaning up code. The project is really old. I think the oldest code parse is from 2009, and even just if you write an email right now, this is the oldest code of the project. So if you write a new email, that's really ancient code. What we did over the year was, yeah, getting Thunderbird to more and more users and learning more about what sets Thunderbird apart from previous K9. And because a lot of users are joined from the desktop world to mobile, and they expected a little bit different feature sets. Um, they and on desktop you have calendar support and a different behavior, different look, and this is not what we have on Thunderbird right now. The Thunderbird is basically just an email client that consumes emails and allows you to write emails, and that's what we have at the moment. This is not set in stone as the feature set that will be the next years. I think we want to gradually change the app to come closer to the desktop experience and close all the gaps that are there between what we have now and what desktop offers at the moment. Yeah, so some highlights. Like we worked on the drawer. We had some debates. Some people love the changes. Some people dislike these changes. This is how it is. We tried our best to take the majority of users of our users within our journey, but we can't cover all cases. But our aim is that the app should work for most of our users. And while we were looking at reviews and feedback from the community, I think what is really apparent is that we have some issues with the app. Some are inherited, some are just created on the fly because we had a lot of internal changes. But the most prominent issue, I think, with the app at the moment is like synchronization, that it's not on the standards we would like to be on. We have a lot of old code that doesn't work well with newer Android versions, and we have a lot of work ahead of us to get this problem solved. But this is one of our highest priority, and you will see later that we try to do in the next year. So looking at what didn't work out well is we have old UI and old settings, and all of them were at some point added to K9 and then later transferred to Thunderbird out of reasons because something didn't work. But we try to get a better default behavior for the app. So if you read emails, it should be easier to detect what emails you have read and unread. This is the biggest chunk of work because we learned that using Material 3 to solve these problems is not enough. It doesn't help. And we need to build something from ground up that works for a mobile user experience, that you have a nice representation of all the different read states an email could have in light and especially dark mode, because I think dark mode is still our weak point in terms of theming and design. But we want to improve that, and there are already initiatives to work on that and rewrite everything that is behind that, and that's the heart of the app. The message list, as you see at the moment, the view you interact the most is also a really, really, really old piece of code, and it needs a lot of careful changes to allow us to do all the things that are necessary for a modern mobile app. And this is a long, hard path for us to allow us to bring you that experience.
I have a quick follow-up question.
Yeah.
So I know in Thunderbird for desktop, whenever they make large changes like the global message database, they kind of add these changes in parallel. So with Thunderbird for Android, whenever you make large changes, do you also just like add new code, or are you are you replacing it as you're going?
We do both, but for
Oh, okay.
larger changes, the code base doesn't allow us to do parallel development in all places. So sometimes we have no other choice as just change existing behavior. But for example, for the drawer is an independent piece of the software that is just enabled by adding a flag. So you could switch between the old and the new behavior, just flipping a switch in the end. So we develop that in parallel and wait until it reaches a certain maturity level to enable features or disable features. But we have limitations that we hope to overcome in the future, but at the current state of the project, we can't do for all, especially around database. Right now, everything is so hard coupled around the existing database that we can't ship a database in parallel. What we will or want to do in the future, so to just like get this tight dependency broken, but this is more a technical challenge, not really a user concern.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, thanks.
Yeah. So I think that this next question, I want to give it to Jon, and I think this is kind of related to some of the development challenges that kind of we brought up in the last question. So one thing that we know is coming soon for mobile users is monthly releases, kind of akin to the development train that we have for Thunderbird desktop. And Jon, I was wondering if you could maybe tell us about kind of what led to this decision and change and what you're hoping that you as developers and also what our users, what kind of benefits we'll get from moving to a monthly release cadence.
Really good question. I mean, there's a few reasons why we would want to do this, why we did want to do this. Specifically, releasing once a year, it's a big piece coming out. It's a big amount of code. There's nothing can break or everything can break, and that's it. You hit your window, you pass the window. So breaking it into more monthly releases reduces that risk, but it also gives us the chance to take feedback sooner and to apply that. So Wolf mentioned the drawer. Some people loved it, some people hated it. Some of it comes down to color, some of it comes down to spacing or fonts, and that gives us the chance to say, how can we change this? What can we do to apply or to make this better? And have that smaller window to do this. So that's what we're hoping to get out of this is more of the conversation instead of a recitation or a dictation to the community. It's more of a conversation of, this is where we're at. What do we want to be doing next? And so there's that second aspect. The first being more stability, less risk. The second being more opportunity to get that feedback.
Yeah, I know that one of the things I've seen in conversations is that kind of, then when you have changes, then you can let them, like we do in desktop Thunderbird, let them ride the train from daily to beta and then into the monthly, rather than having to do uplifts, which can sometimes be a little bit dicey.
Yeah, it's really down to that. And in it, there's complexity involved in this whole thing too, of we have to change how we work, how we break down work. One of the goals that we're hoping for within all of this is getting better with our timelines, getting better with understanding how much meat to take off and chew. It's just us being in this process of trimming the work that we're doing and trying to figure out what are these smaller pieces that fit in it. So we do have now the release process and the beta process, but now we got to size our work to fit really well within the release process and the beta process, a monthly release.
Does this kind of go along with that? And we will link to the blog, that Carpaccio method of kind of slicing things into small, easily digestible bits.
Right, exactly. It's really, you've heard it like MVP and all these other terms. As an engineer, we tend to focus on anything that we need to fix. And sometimes it's stuff inside of the app that no one cares about or doesn't visibly see, but really can affect things later on. And the way Carpaccio works is we try to get pieces of that. We try to get pieces of the actual user interface that people will see, so that anything that we do deliver actually provides a better experience, visually for the user, as well as a more efficient code base. And so it's not just, hey, we submitted, for example, we have some really good database fixes that will help us with our querying. But if we don't wrap that in something that the user will actually use and appreciate, I think it's harder to have a win for everyone. And so that's kind of the focus of how do we get pieces of the re-architecture and the pieces of a better experience within there.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, very, very cool. I would like to also go on the record and say I loved the drawer changes, by the way, because I'm a daily user of the Thunderbird for Android. So Wolf, can you tell us, I know you kind of touched on this initially, in the last year, how much technical debt do you think you guys were able to sort of address and reduce? And does it match what you had planned?
So, last question, no. It didn't. We were not able to remove as much as we planned. This is a really, really old project, and it went through several phases of more close maintenance to more like loosely being patched and worked on. And you see this all over the place in the whole project. And there's still a lot of technical debt to pay back, basically. How does technical debt surface? You want to do a simple change, like you want to introduce an avatar for your account, and you just want to save an URI for the image you use. Sounds super simple and not many steps involved. And then you hit the reality of the project that you just can't simply change it, because a lot of components depend on exactly how it was before, and the project was not designed to be open for change, and it's still not. And that's one of our our journey to open the project to be open for change, because everything changes. The operating system, Android changes, the user expectation changes, and so it needs to be open for constant change. And at the moment, it's more the opposite. It's really closed down and prevents changes, and that's what we're working on. What we managed to do is we broke out pieces of the old code base and separated them from the rest. And this allows us to work on some parts of the app right now pretty quickly and with minimal effort. And we try to isolate other parts that are hard to work on to an extent that we could still deliver something. But sometimes we hit a point where we need to touch the existing old code that is not willing to do what we want to do in the end. And we need to somehow change it that it allows us to do what we want to do. And this is really hard. So a small change could explode from first look being a week of work to months of work to just like get small little pieces in the right shape that they fit to the problem we try to solve. And there's a lot of things we need to do, but this old code base starts to fall apart. So some pieces are starting to move and some are still really stubborn in place. And our challenge is to somehow deliver something new, change the project, and also continue on making our life in the end easier to work with the project and do changes. Because if you want to do a quick change and you look, there's an issue reported and the solution is quite simple, and you try to apply that to the project and realize, yeah, okay, this takes me now 3 weeks or 4 weeks of work. This somehow needs to fit in our overall roadmap. And so sometimes we just can't stop the work to just like fix a little issue. And that's sad because ideally we should be able to fix problems quickly. And that's the end goal for the project, to reach a level where we could change things, fix more quickly. And the release process, I think, reflects that too, that we are moving into a more like smaller changes, smaller granular work pieces that fit into a smaller change set that we could deliver, and we get feedback way earlier, because some of the draw changes we had feedback after 6 months, and this is way too long to react, because who knows what one was doing 6 months ago. And this is a constant challenge, and with shorter times it's easier to reflect what you did 4 weeks ago.
That's interesting. And I wonder if all of the efforts that you've done in the last year has laid groundwork to address technical debt maybe a little bit quicker over the next year. Would you say that that's true?
Yeah, so the project was lacking a lot of, well, basically any documentation. There was a small wiki with a little explanation, but for the majority of the app's functionality, this is unknown territory. So it's not documented, not really good tests to cover what is there. And for us, it's hard to figure out what change has what effect. And what we did is we added a lot of documentation and document everything that we add to the project so that we have a good baseline to change things and learn more. And as soon as we discover and learn more about the project, we document that and get a better idea of how everything should fit together and how could we change it in the future.
Right. That's
Yeah.
great. Documentation is really important. And sorry, one more quick question for Jon. It's really interesting that you are leading a team of long, 16-year-old code base for Android and brand new iOS. So how are you, I assume that there are some lessons that can be learned from Android to avoid problems in iOS. So like, how are you able to take lessons from Android to maybe reduce future technical debt in iOS?
Really good questions. And it's very, one has a lot of complexity and history and just life baked into it. And the other is all about the planning. And so the Android app, I mean, it grew as a project out of one person, a passion project. The environment was different, the needs were different. He knew everything, didn't need the documentation. And then it came here with our team, and there are those questions. So documentation, of course, is the first thing. The planning, it's very easy to plan when you've already experienced some of the pain or experienced some of what is needed. So in that case, we already have a springboard of what is the user experience going to be like, and what are some ways we can architect it. What does our database look like? And even now, what is the community like? What doesn't the community like? Like all of those things come into how we are building the iOS side of things. But it really is about how do we're focusing as we do this, how do we make sure it's visible? How do we make sure that it's documented? We hope to have contributors when we get to a point where we can have more contributors working in the code base. We're building our APIs to be very clean. Like, for example, our IMAP library, we're encapsulating it. And most things are actually just encapsulated into single pieces. And so bringing that structure from the beginning, we expect more people to be working in this. We know our team will be growing too. So, I mean, all of that, hindsight's 2020, we get the benefit of all of that as we move forward with the iOS side.
Okay, very cool, very cool. Well, thank you both.
Awesome. I almost expect, to see little hearts over Heather's head at all this talk about documentation, which is just, and it's so good that we're building that into our processes now to help future us. It's such a gift to future us. So,
well,
and future.
I just wanted to say this is one of the engineers on our team talks about, he's now like the foremost expert in IMAP because no one else wants to touch it. No one else knows it. And he says it jokingly, but it is really like, this is very old technology and there's not a lot of open libraries that you can pull from. And it's all down to documentation. And how does he learn how to do it? He has to go dive and go everywhere. So that is something that we're hoping will come out of this too, as here is a library. Currently it'll be iOS. Soon it'll be KMP, Kotlin multi-platform. But it will be a single piece that you can pull from because of that documentation and because of that focus on that.
Awesome. So I think this next question is a little bit of a shift and is hilarious because neither of you are regular Thunderbird for Android or K9 users. But if you were just a regular person using this app, what feature would you want to see in the app the most? Ignoring everything you've talked about what it takes to get those features to land in the app. If you could make a wish and have something, boom, be in the app, what would it be?
Well, I could start. Basically, it's hard to do one change.
Okay.
It's for me, I think the app is still, it feels a little bit old and lacking a little bit of the behavior of other modern email clients and also other modern apps. And it's just a feel. If you use the app, you have a lot of interactions that are strange patterns. So you scroll through the messages and you need to hit a button to load the next ones. And you open a folder you never opened before. The emails are not there. You need to click an action. And this behavior, this is just so old and dated. And I wish we have a modernized UI where all this just works as smooth, and you go somewhere and the content you want to look at is there, and you don't need to do another interaction and another interaction to just get it working. This is, I think, in summary, what I would love to have. And I would have done it if it would be possible, but this is this is really, really old code that this still takes some effort to learn, but this is something I would really love to do. And then there are all the little things like quality of life things, filtering, just like, or quickly moving something. And something what I, for example, love from Apple Mail is like it remembers the folders you moved your content to. And this is, for me, if I'm a heavy user of zero inbox mailbox, so I always look in my inbox and try to process all the emails, move them to other folders. And this is a lifesaver because it memorizes which emails go in which folder. So the sorting is really, really quick. And that's the feature I would love.
Nice. What about you, Jon?
Yeah, for me, I mean, I'm going to take a few because Wolf got to take a few. The stability, I don't even know if stability is the right word. Wolf mentioned the syncing, just making it always up to sync, and even when you open it, it should just automatically sync. Getting that and the notification system, and I know the community's asked for this too. That is a big piece for me in doing that. The other pain point I have, which maybe I'm transferring my iOS pain point with iOS Mail, is the search is terrible. I eventually go to Google or go to Proton and do the searches myself, just because I can't do a complex search. It doesn't seem to understand logical ands and ors and something more complex, or find things sometimes that I would expect it to. And so I would love to wave a magic wand to just have that search capability and find anything without having to go to the desktop to do that.
Yeah.
I think I have to add something.
Mm-hmm.
While the UI doesn't offer search, the app itself, deep, there is a really sophisticated search implementation. It is basically a mathematical representation of a binary tree search where you could combine whatever you like. Date, you could change the sort order, everything. You could do and, or you could combine different things. And it's built in the app. It's just not available because it's, I think, developed 2010 around and by someone and as a contribution to the project. And I think it is used, but it never surfaced the search form. And so in theory, it is possible already to write customized searches that go really deep on details on emails, but it's hidden under lots of layers of old code.
Why was it never surfaced? Is it like a design decision? Like, because where would the search box go and all of that?
I don't know. I think no one took the effort to really write a user-facing search interface that is capable of capable of letting the user really define searches. And this is also, from a UX perspective, quite hard to do because you need to combine, you need to somehow detect the and ors, or you need to place them per hand and so on. So this is quite complex to build, but a simplified version might already be in reach to some extent because I know the code base and it's not a short jump, sadly.
Got it.
I just love all these code nuggets, like archaeological treasures. Like it's there. It's just buried under a bunch of layers.
Kind of speaking of, the older code base and the newer, how would you say the user base has evolved from everybody being on K9, and now we have some K9 users still. We have Thunderbird for Android. How has the user base evolved there? Are there more users in one area than another? Maybe that's for you, Jon? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Wolf would have the historical
Oh, okay.
context on
Okay.
that specifically.
Yeah, this is really hard to really give you numbers because we don't have any numbers. What we see in terms of reviews, and I think this is something you, Monica, also see a lot, is the different type of users on the different projects. So there is a certain degree on difference, but to really phrase it, it's hard. They are definitely, they have different use cases. So the K9 user base is really focused around email. Email only, especially IMAP, but also a lot of users still using POP3, so really old protocol. And a lot of users are also interested in more like email text features being implemented, so close to email protocols, IMAP extensions. And why the user base on Thunderbird is, I think, more broader. And a part of it is also a Thunderbird desktop user. And yeah, as I said in the beginning, they have some expectations in terms of features, and they're missing features as soon as they use Thunderbird for Android. And the most question we get is calendar support. So users can't manage their calendar in the Android app yet. And a lot of like quality of life features, like filters, search, which works really good on desktop, but doesn't work at all on mobile. And so this is the biggest difference I would see. In terms of like, they also have like a history. Most users from desktop are really attached to desktop, and either some of them used K9 in the past and just learned that now there is a Thunderbird version, and they're basically the same. We still build both apps from the same foundation. The only difference is that we disable the quick import and QR import from Thunderbird desktop just for the Thunderbird for mobile app. And the rest is just the same. And the most notable difference is that we have a full open source version that is distributed through F-Droid. And then we have a version that is distributed through Google that has features that are depend on closed source software in the end. So like, for example, a payment service for if you want to donate to the project.
Gotcha. So we don't have numbers at all on like how many users there are
Oh yeah.
across. Oh, okay.
We have
We
numbers,
do.
yeah.
Right now, just in the actual beta, or I mean the actual app, not including betas, there's like 460,000 on the Android side. I'm not sure what it was before in K9, but it has been a continual growth typically within that. So as far as number of users, we are definitely seeing that grow. And I think some of it is, I mean, Thunderbird's been around for years. It's been around for decades. Well, maybe not decades, but close enough, right? So there's a lot of
21st year.
Okay, yeah, great. I remember using it its first year. And so it's that name recognition. Hopefully some trust comes with that. But also, I think some of it is where are we going next with it, with the JMAP stuff, with us being able to connect to other services. I'm not sure what the K9 community is doing specifically, but I do know that we have a pretty good roadmap that we're happy to work with. Some of those are technical fixes that we've talked about, but some of them are other things that are happening here at Thunderbird that we're hoping to bring into the app. So it's also a look forward of who will we bring on next? How much more trust can we get? And I think that's on both iOS and on Android, of hoping to build that community and that alternative more. But there is a promising roadmap for that.
Yeah, that's exciting. And there was a State of the Thunder call yesterday, which will be posted soon, that kind of talks more about that mobile roadmap as well.
Yes, it's nice that we get like this mobile week, and that way we're getting kind of the two sides. We get the more in-depth discussion of the roadmap, which also talks about the UI that Wolf was talking about earlier. And then this way we're talking, and then this way we're talking about, the retrospective. And so it's nice that we just kind of we're talking about mobile from so many different angles in different ways this week, which for this week, when we were all like, I remember how busy October was, like getting everything ready, like getting all the KB articles ready, and just like, all right, we're gonna put this out. And it was just, I can't believe it's been a year. Like, how did that happen? But and what's amazing is that we've had some big changes to the team. Like, Jon, you're new. Wolf, I think you're from the office hours we did in January. You're the only one still on the mobile team from that. So we've had this new leadership. We've been adding new developers as part of this growth we're seeing just for the Thunderbird team. So how has this impacted the work that you all have done?
I'll take a stab at that first. I know what I've seen, what I've heard, and Wolf will probably dive deeper into this, but that documentation came out of, oh wow, we have a whole new team coming, and as well as it's first the focus is, how do we want to work as a team and how do we make that visible? I think those are changes that we are bringing into play right now. If you look up, I think on the website right now, the roadmaps are still 2024 roadmaps. We're about to wrap up 2025 roadmaps. But this gives us the chance to really say, all right, we know a lot of that wants to go in, but what can we actually fit into this? So it changes how we work and what we're looking toward, hopefully in a more deliverable package level within that. But also, we've got some really talented engineers. We've got some people who know a lot about all of these different things, or who know how to learn about these different things. On the iOS side, there's so much to discover. And so how has this affected the team, or how has this made the team change? It's giving people that opportunity to come out and think in terms of, how do we break this in ways so that the community can start working in, and really leverage both our internal team and an external contributor team.
Awesome.
Yeah, my question kind of is on top of that. So speaking of community contributors, are there any top contributors that you would like to highlight their work? Maybe like a triager or a bug fixer or
developer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have a lot of contributions, especially on our translation project at Webplate, where a lot of volunteers are constantly translating the app to a lot of languages. And I think the most up-to-date languages always are the French language translation, then I think from AO Labs, then the German translation, and throughout we have a lot of also new translators who are adding languages to our set of supported languages, because whatever is translated to a certain threshold, we integrate into in the app. And from a community, I think the contribution and the speed on Weblate is astonishing. So shout out to all the hard work done there on translating what we put in English, which sometimes is also not the best English, because not all of us are native English speakers. So take that. And if you have suggestion on the source, please report it on our main repository. Yeah, then in terms of code contributions, we have one who is like now really long-term contributor since last year. That's Shamin, who really helped us in a lot of areas, and even took over some more complicated changes over a long time period. So that's really appreciated. And he was also patient that we sometimes didn't have the resources to review all his changes just at the moment. He was pushing them, but yeah. And then over the time, we had some individuals who really contributed. I think Arne, who wrote the changes for the UTF-8 support for IMAP, which was just standardized, and he works really hard to bring all other projects, open source projects, up to speed on adapting new standards. So shout out to him. Even if he's not a mobile developer, doesn't know our tooling, he put a lot of effort in bringing our code base into to support new features. And then through issue triage, I think, I forgot his name. I think Platform. Yeah.
34?
Well, yeah,
43?
right.
I think 34.
Yeah, I'm mixing that up all the time. Sorry for that, but he helped on answering issues, helping triaging some bugs. So that's also worth. Thank you. And all the others, of course, who volunteer to comment, help us fixing or figuring out what went well or went wrong in some of the cases, and reporting bugs so that we are aware of what is not working, because everyone needs to knows this. We don't have any analytics. We have no tracking tool. So the only chance we know that something doesn't work is if you tell us. And if you don't tell us, we don't know. Ideally, not as a bad review, because this harms us. So if you have the chance and know what's going wrong, please go to GitHub and open a new issue and report what is broken. And ideally, you could help us figuring out how this could have happened. And then we try to fix that for you.
That's great. Thanks.
That was also, thank you for the plug to raise an issue about it. And I think we'll get to that in our next question after mine. But what's funny is that compared to last year, when our iOS work was still kind of like more theoretical, and now our iOS work is very much not theoretical. How has it been, balancing work on the Android app now that we have 2 mobile apps that we're developing? So we're doing all these things that we've been talking about in this chat and in others, and we're balancing that with iOS, getting that ready for test flight by the end of the year. How has that been?
Really good question. Specifically, I think that's the hardest part about this, is we are a small team. Luckily, one of our engineers works across both of our platforms. She can work. She's done React Native. She's done Android development, like native Android, and then native iOS. And so some of that has been bringing her up to speed in SwiftUI, which SwiftUI is incredible. She's been able. Well, I should say SwiftUI is incredible, and she's incredible. She's made it so that we've thrown out like 3 major screens within a day. And obviously there's systems that we need to connect underneath that, but it's given a chance for her to really dive into that and do that, but also move super quickly. That's the benefit of the the greenfield code base is we don't have a lot of things weighing us down yet. But also the question of how do we balance the two? It's like we have two totally different worlds happening right now. One where we prioritize what is the top bugs or the top issues on Android that we need to work on, and how do we cut it into tiny bite-sized pieces. The iOS side is more, again, what do we want to do? But we can think immediately in those bite-sized pieces. We're getting the test flight out this year, and we wanted to get IMAP in there. It's really complex, but we found that we can break it. We can just do the UI portion, put in mock data for right now, have some of it connected as much as we can, and get that into test flight. And then the next thing will be when we get IMAP in there, we'll reconnect it and have another test flight out. So it's changed. The balance is Android has lost someone to work on it immediately. iOS is gaining someone that we can move very quickly. Luckily, the team is growing. We have another person who will be joining us. So the balance, of course, is what is the most important thing? And I think the answer is both. Both apps are the most important thing, but also it is requiring us to say what on Android, like notifications, we had to cut or not cut, but move some of what we're doing to later on. And same with drawer, we had to move some of the database refactors to after, which is probably better for the end user. Those are all situational things. The question of how has it been to balance the work? The team has been awesome. The community has been very, very helpful and awesome. And it's been challenging balancing, but I think over the next quarter or two, we'll start to see the fruits of us balancing the team this way. I think positive fruits.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
So kind of going back a question and directing a question for you, Monica, I think maybe a lot of people don't know that you're the voice behind all of those replies.
Not a developer. It
So-
cracks me up when people are like, thanks, devs. I'm like, not a developer.
I think you spend a lot of effort going through the Android reviews and, replying to things. Can you talk a little bit about, just how much effort you're putting into this? And do you have any, call outs for the people, the community that might be leaving reviews?
Oh gosh. Definitely this is a community effort, because I know Wolf and Jon, you all, whether it's on, we've got a team chat, but we also have, and I will put links, we have a mobile development chat on Matrix, and then we also have an Android community support chat. And what we've been trying to do is trying to answer people's questions. If people have support questions in the reviews, and if it's not something that, there are certain things that are very easy to answer. Like, hey, my sent messages, they're not syncing, and there's a certain setting that they need to turn on. Or certain things with push notifications. There are a lot of kind of things that need to be turned on, and we just kind of point people, it's like, yes, you've checked here, but have you also checked here and checked here? For things beyond that, that is when the community is, I might be the person typing these, but the community is the one helping me. And it not only is the people on those Matrix channels, including our team here, including contributors, but it's also people on the K9 forum who I'm going through their answers, like, especially when people are like, my messages are just, they're kind of really slow. And I was doing my research, and I will link to the question when I find it. Someone's like, oh, if you turn off something with loading something about the images you load from your server. If you turn those things off, it can go faster. And so I suggested that, and the person responded to the review, increased their stars, and they were like, that worked. Thank you so much. And so it is, and then also the bug triagers on GitHub. So people like platform either 34 or 43 who are like working with like the IMAP work around with the few people who got upgraded to 12.1 and there were IMAP issues, that it was the people on GitHub who gave me, it's like, oh, here's the steps for people to try. And so even though, yes, it's one person right now typing these reviews out, it is an entire it is the MZLA team, it is community triagers, developers, supporters who are all going into that.
That is great. And I don't think there's an effort like this or a Monica of Google that's doing this for the Gmail app, just saying.
Yeah. So
it's great that, I think it really shows that we at Thunderbird really care about people to have someone spend hours going through these reviews and bubbling up questions and getting answers. And
yeah,
I think it's very noteworthy.
yeah. And what's nice is that once we figure something out, then I can figure out a stock reply, and then it makes it easier, except when it's translating that into German or French and squishing my message down into about half the space so the translation doesn't cut off. So
Fair.
if you've ever been, yeah, and also that is one thing we do use an auto translator. So if you've ever been wondering why our German is weird or not great, it is from our management platform. So sorry about that.
Gotcha. Well, thank you.
And just a call out, I see Monica in Matrix all of the time, every day, asking questions and trying to solve whether a bug's coming in or there's other things she's communicating. Like, she's very active, actively trying to engage with everyone. So don't be shy. I'll try not to be shy too. So if you have questions for me, please reach out.
Will do. And so I get, all right, I passed the stress test of being a temporary guest, and now I get to answer, and now I get to ask the last question. So what exciting things, and we covered a few of these in State of the Thunder, but what exciting things can users look forward to in the next year?
I have the roadmap in front of me, so I'll take that first step, and then if Wolf has anything. We've talked a lot about, sorry, let me get some water here. We've talked a lot about getting the architecture done. We recognize that's a huge piece to us moving quicker. That's a huge piece to improving the user experience. So that's one of our biggest priorities. I said, what is my first thing that I'd like to improve? It really is that user experience, the syncing, the notifications. If we have a unified inbox that's all affected, we have potentially the querying stuff, which filters into that whole unified inbox thing, the querying to the database that Wolf talked about earlier. Those are all things that we're hoping to improve the database, etc. View improvements is our second biggest thing. List improvements, and then getting into actual additional features like HTML signature, JMAP support, and then a couple of other things on the Android side. And that's a very high level. Our actual architectural path and message list is maybe over 100 items of things that we will be working on or improving over that time. The iOS side is more about getting it into place. So account creation, IMAP support, reading and writing, and getting attachments is really our first goal with all of this. And then JMAP support, HTML signatures, and then swipe actions is a thing that we're putting here, but we're hoping to have that just baked in with some of this. But at a high level, we have a very, very active roadmap, and hope to publish this. We're talking about what is the best way to publish this and communicate all of that. But we have a lot on our roadmap. But I think we have a lot that we can do because we've worked on breaking it into those smaller bite-sized pieces.
That's great. Very exciting. Yeah, maybe we can do another, but next year it'll be like a mobile retrospective in general for both apps. That'd be kind of cool. Well, thank you both very much for coming and talking about mobile with a focus on Android. Wolf, you can never leave. You are an Android person forever. Yeah, I think it's been a very exciting year. It's been nice to see like so many changes, and I expect at the upcoming FOSDEM we'll get a lot of enthusiasm at our booth about this as well. So thanks again for your time, and everybody watching, thanks for watching, and we will see you next month. So thanks.
Yeah. All right. Thank
Bye-bye.
you all so much.
Thank you.